YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I wanted to talk more about this bank run that's going on. I obviously have covered it multiple times in a few videos, but I wanted to make a separate video about the carbon footprint and what this is really about. Yes, there's a lot of agendas that tie into this. Yes, taking people's money away. Yes, having people go broke or losing money in the banks. Those are all part of this. But ideally, with the digital currency being the main thing, the other thing that people are forgetting about is the carbon footprint. Now, before I get into it, I just want to let everybody know that I am going to continue uploading here on YouTube, but this channel is demonetized. This channel is shadow banned. So the only way people are going to find this channel is if you share the videos with other people. That's the only way I'll be able to wake people up. But obviously, I'm fighting up a pretty steep uphill battle of trying to be able to get this information out to people, as most of you know. So this channel needs your support by sharing the videos. And also, if you can or you want to become a Patreon, this channel will be 100% funded by everybody out there. You do not have to become a Patreon if you don't want to, but the option is there. I haven't plugged Patreon too many times over the years, so I'm just letting people know that that option is there. Regardless, I still have the website at callforanuprising.com. I hope to see more people over on the website. At the very least, if you don't want to join the website or you can't, you can click on the free video tab on the website. That way you will get email updates of where I'm uploading, of important videos, because YouTube, of course, doesn't share the videos. They don't tell people that there's a new video up, et cetera, et cetera. So you can click on the free videos over there, or you could join the website for exclusive content, as well as a forum that is just packed with information. So definitely check it out if you haven't. So I want to start with this, with the carbon footprint, okay? The big banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, et cetera, the big banks are all using the carbon footprint now. So what the carbon footprint is it's a way of tracking everything you do. They tie it into this bullcrap of carbon emissions. So in other words, if you buy clothes, oh, well, guess what? You're contributing to carbon emissions because you're buying clothes from Nike, which makes the clothes in a factory, et cetera, et cetera. This is to limit and control what you buy, where you go, et cetera, et cetera. And they're even admitting, Janet Yellen even is admitting that the banks are not going to be bailed out, the small regional banks. They need to destroy the small regional banks, community banks, banks that you don't nationally hear about, right? Why do they need to do that? Because they need everybody to get in with the digital currency, to be sucked in, and they need everybody, of course, to have the carbon footprint. The small independent banks are not going to implement the carbon footprint, especially ones in states like Oklahoma, Texas, non-liberal states. They're just not going to do it. So their other option is to put them under. Now, Janet Yellen out of her own mouth talks about how the government will bail out big banks, but they're not going to bail out the small banks. I wonder why. Take a listen. So, I mean, out of her own...
Will the deposits in every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of their size, be fully insured now? Are they fully recovered? Every bank, every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of the size of the deposit, will they get the same treatment that SVBP just got or Signature Bank just got?
A bank only gets that treatment if a majority of the FDIC board, a supermajority of the Fed board, and I, in consultation with the president, determine that the failure to protect uninsured depositors would create systemic risk and significant economic and financial consequences.
So what is your plan?
We made that determination.
Right. So what is your plan to keep large depositors from moving their funds out of community banks into the big banks? We have seen the mergers of banks over the past decade. I'm concerned you're about to accelerate that by encouraging anyone who has a large deposit in a community bank to say, we're not going to make you whole, but if you go to one of our preferred banks, we will make you whole at that point.
Look, I mean, that's certainly not something that we're encouraging.
That is happening right now.
That is happening because depositors are concerned about the bank failures that have happened and whether or not other banks could also
No,
fail.
it's happening
And
because you're
it's-
fully insured no matter what the amount is if you're in a big bank. You're not fully insured if you're in a community bank.
Well, you're not fully insured. And
You
the big-
were at Signature, and
the
it just barely met that threshold. You were at Signature.
Well, we felt that there was a serious risk of contagion that could have brought down and triggered runs on many banks, and that's something, given that our judgment is that the banking system overall is safe and sound, depositors should have confidence in the system, and we took these actions.
So there's a
to
special
discourage
assessment that's been done
contagion.
on community banks in my state and all banks across the country. Was there any discussion that that special assessment would only apply to the larger banks, or was it always assumed the special assessment would cover every bank, including rural banks in my state?
I think, I'm not certain what the rules are around that. That's for the FDIC to determine.
Mouth or his own, whatever it is, out of the mouth of Janet Yellen, whatever its pronoun is, let's just say, out of its own mouth, letting you know that the government will step in for big banks, but you will not be insured at small banks. So in other words, when the small banks go under, everybody in those communities will lose whatever money they have in those banks because they won't be protected by the government. You see where this goes? Thus, what they're doing is they're causing people to take their money because they're fearful out of the small banks and put it into banks like Bank of America. That's exactly what they want because they're going to be the ones who are implementing the digital currency as well as implementing the carbon footprint. For those of you who don't understand the carbon footprint, even credit card companies now are they're calling it, the green card and all this stuff. They're going green, and idiots out there are like, oh yeah, that's to do with the environment. I'll show you the commercial right now about the carbon footprint. As far as your credit card goes, and remember, this is them desensitizing people with a credit card, but eventually this is going to be all the money that you have inside of the bank. They're just desensitizing people to this type of technology, trying to say, oh, it's not a big deal, we're not doing anything to you. And eventually, when this is implemented, they will freeze your bank account, they will prevent you from traveling, just like we see going on in China. But here's the World Economic Forum even mentioning the carbon footprint, and of course, here's a commercial promoting it.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
In 2018, the United Nations released an urgent report emphasizing the need to cut carbon emissions in half by 2030 in order to avoid an irreversible climate crisis. The average consumer in Sweden causes around 10 tons of carbon emissions each year, of which 60% is linked to consumption. Later in 2018, Doconomy, a Swedish fintech, took on the challenge and launched Do, a mobile banking service for everyday climate action. The Do app is connected to a credit card that enables users to track and measure their carbon footprint from each purchase and to compensate for its impact day by day. This spring, Doconomy took its fight against climate change one step further by adding a premium credit card to its offer. But instead of introducing a premium credit card with the typical benefits that encourages further mass consumption, Doconomy did the opposite by launching Do Black, the world's first credit card with a carbon limit. Simply put, it's the first credit card ever to stop you from overspending. Not based on your available funds, but rather on the levels of CO2 emissions caused by your consumption. Do Black helps you track your climate impact and ensures that you reduce it by 50% in line with the UN 2030 recommendation.
The core purpose of Do Black is not only the ability to measure the impact of your consumption, but also bringing it to a direct halt, making it a radical tool against climate change.
For years, credit cards have put a limit on our credit. Do Black puts a limit on our impact.
So what that is total slavery. That's what it is. Okay, people are going to fall into this trap. They're going to be like, hey, you can't go to see your sick mother this month or your sick father in the hospital because you've already reached your carbon emission, limit. Okay, so say you get 1,000 credits in carbon emissions. Every single thing that you do is going to be monitored. So if you buy some clothes that month, you need underwear and socks, let's just say. Oh, that'll be 500 points deducted from your carbon limit. Okay, then you'll have 500 left. And if it's 300 for you to go to work for the whole month, then you're down to 200. You go to the grocery store, then you're down to 0. So you won't be able to leave. You won't be able to use the air conditioner or the heat in your home because that'll count as carbon emissions. This is modern day slavery. And this is why they are so hell-bent on keeping people in a left and right divide. Because the left automatically jumps in and goes, oh yeah, we're all about climate change because it's a liberal, it's a liberal lunatic sweat dream, as they say, right? They love this stuff. They think that they're actually helping the environment. They don't even see that these people who promote climate change are the ones, if it was real, are the ones who are putting the most pollution into the air, flying around in private jets, and then they go, oh, well, it's worth the risk for us to get out there and let people know. They don't see the fact that this is slavery. So if the left and right is too busy not realizing what the carbon footprint is, how are we going to get anywhere? And that's one of the reasons that they silence people like me over and over. You don't hear any of the people who are pushed in the right-wing media talking about what the carbon footprint really is and how this plan with the banks is a part of the carbon footprint. You have to get rid of the small regional banks. You have to get everyone into these big banks where you will have no choice. And then when you have a digital currency and you don't have money anymore or cash, you will either have money in Bank of America or one of these big banks, or you won't have any. Because whatever you keep under your mattress, it's not going to be worth anything anymore. Because it's not going to be the currency that's being used. And that currency that's being used is going to track your every which move, your behavior, what you say online. This goes into your digital identity as well. Your digital ID, what you say online, what you're looking at on the internet. Okay, these are all going to be things that they can freeze, and that's the point. If you are not living your life the way that they're telling you to live it, if you're questioning anything's going on, they will penalize you. And what they will do is they will shut off your bank account. They will shut off your money so you can't buy food or water or anything. They will make sure that you cannot travel certain places. They will make sure that your car is shut off because it's electric. They will shut off the heat and the air in your home because all of that stuff is going to have smart meters on it. They're telling you that this stuff has to do with the environment, and it doesn't. If they had their way, they would throw every single person in a giant prison cell. But they know that there's way too many people. There's not a cell big enough for billions of people. But if we make the people enslave themselves and imprison themselves, so in other words, your home becomes your cell, right? You put all the technology in it so that they can monitor you, listen to you, and control everything inside of your house because it's all controlled by Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and 5G. How convenient. This is an utter nightmare, an utter nightmare. So the carbon footprint is part of what this plan with the banks is all about. Because there's going to be no escape. People are like, oh, well, I'll support the small bank. Okay, you support the small bank. Well, they're going to do everything they can to put the small banks out of business, right? So once they put the small banks out of business, you have no choice but to go to the big banks. But most people are seeing all these banks go under, so they're getting afraid. So they're running to the protected banks, right? The banks who will, make sure that if something happens to the bank, the government will bail them out and you'll still have your money. That's the messaging that they're trying to give. That's what Biden was saying. Oh, don't worry. Everybody who deposited in the Silicon Valley Bank. We'll have their money. We'll bail them out. Oh, okay, so what banks won't you bail out? Oh, the baby banks, the small banks, the regional banks. But you will bail out Bank of America, et cetera, et cetera. So that gives the impression to people that they better get their money into the big banks. And that's where they want you to get your money into. Because the small banks aren't going to be involved with the centralized digital currency, and the small banks aren't going to be involved with the carbon footprint. They need everybody aligned into a big bank, one big bank preferably. Whatever they end up calling it, could be Bank of America, could be who knows what. I call it Bunk of America. That's why I said that, Bunk of America. But anyway, it'll be one bank that they're going to force people into. And of course, with the digital currency, like I've been saying, there will be a ton of bank scares and the digital ID. There'll be a ton of fake hacking stories. You're going to hear them. You've heard them already. And that, again, is to get people prepared to take what I believe is the mark. So have it inside of them. They don't have to worry about getting hacked. But the irony is they already are hacked by having it in them. They're no longer human. They're transhuman. So this is part of the agenda that people seem to be missing with these banks. It's not just about, oh, we're going to, the government's messing around. They're going to make people go broke, et cetera, et cetera. It is about the centralized currency as well as the carbon footprint, which is a tracking system that they put in place and say, it's for the environment. Everybody has to do it. We all have to play our part. Those are the trigger terms you're going to hear. I thank everyone for being here. Hope I see you over on the website. I appreciate you greatly. God bless you and your families.